I keep seeing all of these wrap-up videos and people are talking about all of the books that they read in 2024. I'm gonna be so honest with you for a second here. There's no way I'm gonna sit here and talk about all of the books I read in 2024 because I read 242 of them. That is a lot. Did I beat my goal for last year? No, but there's always next year. So instead, we're going to do a book tag and kind of reminisce on some of my favorite reads for the year of 2024 that way instead. I'm not gonna do reviews for each of this book, so these are just like my thoughts and opinions, keeping it quick, short, and sweet. Most of my reviews you can actually find in my monthly wrap-up videos. The first question is, what was your favorite book of 2024? So that's going to be A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I read this back in May and I have not been able to forget about it. There is before and after you read this book. A lot of people hate it because the couple is very toxic. I don't care about toxic couples because sometimes they just work their way into your heart and there's no way to get them out. I wouldn't even want to get them out if I wanted to, so it's okay. Which book exceeded your expectations? So that was going to be The Poppy War for me. I know this is a very loved series and I read it wanting to know what the hype was all about. Let's just say I found out what the hype was all about. This is very dark. It's like a dark academia book. A lot of people get killed multiple times in multiple chapters. I mean, it's a book about war. There's no doubt about that. I ate this up. I was consumed by it and now I'm scared to read the second book in the series, but I will do it. I will be strong and courageous. Which book didn't live up to the hype for you? So that would be Lights Out and Wild Love. I couldn't decide between the two because I disliked both of them so much. It's not that I disliked them. I would say it's more that they were just really big disappointments. So Lights Out was a big disappointment for me because it's supposed to be a dark rom-com and I loved Butcher and Blackbird. So that is a dark rom-com. So I was kind of hoping it was the same feelings. Like I would laugh and giggle and kick my feet as I was reading it. And I was just really confused with the plot within the story. I was asking myself a lot of questions as I was reading this book. Like some things would happen and I'm like, did I skip a whole chapter? Did I skip a few paragraphs? Where was that information? Oh, that information wasn't even in the book. Lo and behold. So because of that, I was just really disappointed. Then we have Wild Love. Rosie was just a very aggravating character for me. She acted like she was 12 years old and the woman was in her mid-20s, I think. There's not much I could say about this book, to be honest with you. I try to erase it from my brain. I think I was mostly disappointed by it because it's the first one in the series and it was supposed to be a single dad romance. Now, I will say, I loved how Elsie incorporated the single dad aspect into it. I thought that was a very fun spin in the single dad trope. I just could not get over how annoying Rosie was, and she kind of ruined the whole book for me. She's my least favorite Elsie Silver female lead ever. Which author did you discover this year that you can't wait to read more from? That is going to be QB Tyler for me. I devoured her books. I think it was the month of November, maybe it was October. I picked up The Season of Secrets and it was like a snowball effect, and before I knew it, I had read 4 of her books within the span of a week. They're very easy to binge, very taboo when it comes to romance. I am a taboo romance lover. Shame me for it if you need to, but I'm not gonna change. That's just who I am, and she writes some of the best taboo I've ever read in my life. So I would definitely be reading more of her books. Which character stuck with you the most this year? Isaiah Rhodes from Play Along. I absolutely love this series, and Isaiah Rhodes gave what's his name? Ryan Shea. He gave Ryan Shea a run for his money. Ryan Shea is from The Right Move. I loved him so much because Ryan went above and beyond for Indy, and Isaiah did the exact same thing for Kennedy. He made sure this woman felt loved. I felt loved for her through the pages. And she wasn't even me. I am not her. Do I wish I was her? Maybe. Which magical system fascinated you the most? That would be The Book That Wouldn't Burn. When this book ended and my mind was shattered into pieces, I had to stare into the wall for 10 to 15 minutes trying to put my mind back together because I was not expecting for the plot twist to hit so hard. It was so good though. It was so good. Even when I try to explain it to people, I can't even explain it without spoiling it because I just love it so much and love the twist that the author puts into it. And you think a book with a library and magical books shouldn't be so good, but you would be wrong. This book is going to prove you wrong, and if you have not read it, I need you to please pick it up. Which book had you feeling all of the emotions? The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings. Matter of fact, this entire series, but this one the most because it's my favorite. I tabbed the absolute life out of it. This is where a couple that I was not expecting to become a couple got together, and it was everything and more that I could have wanted, but I was also very anxious and very sad and stressed out at the same time. So it had me feeling all of the emotions. I would deal with those emotions all over again just to experience this book for the first time. On to numbers and stats. How many books did you read this year? So I actually ended up reading 242 books. It did surpass my goal because my goal was 200 books, and last year I read 250, so I was really trying to beat myself. Didn't really quite get there, but that is okay. You win some and you lose some, and there's always next year. What was the shortest book that you read? The shortest book that I read was Gnome in Your Home, and that was 82 pages. This was a quick little holiday novella, and I can't even tell you too much about the plot because it was just a silly little book. What was the longest book that you read? Now this book doesn't look long. If you put this next to the book that wouldn't burn, this one looks a lot thicker. But let me tell you, this is the new version. The old version is much thicker. I think they shortened this one. This book is long. The audiobook feels even longer. So definitely the longest book that I read was Saving Six. This took me like an entire week to finish because it's really emotional, but like I said, there's just so much information within this book. It's gonna take you a while. Did you DNF any books this year? Matter of fact, I did. I got real comfortable DNFing books, and I ended up DNFing 11. There's probably more out there. These are just the only ones that I could think of going back to my stats because I couldn't really find the ones that I DNF'd. I don't mark it in my Goodreads as read, so I have no way of remembering them unless they were just so bad that I can recall, oh yeah, I did pick that up and put it back down and said, hell no. Assistant to the Villain. There's not enough money you could pay me to go back into this world and finish it. I just hated this character. All of the characters in this book, to be honest with you, were just really annoying to me. The Finish Line, I read this because of the hype surrounding the book, and Exodus was where everything fell short for me. Something happened to one of my favorite characters, and I will never forgive the author for it. I was already not liking the series, and then you went and did what you did. Never reading one of her books again. Actually, that's not true. I read another book by her and I actually did like that, so she's redeeming herself. But yeah, that series, the Ravenhood series, is not for me. Smoky Darling, I DNF this because there's an age gap in it, but the male lead falls in love with the female lead when she's 15 years old and he's like in college. Why are you looking at a 15-year-old sexually? That is creepy. You deserve to be in jail, sir. Even if the actual romance took place when they were both legal, I couldn't overlook that. Big Nick energy is big ick energy. There is no good reason why you should let a stranger that you just met come into your home to move an elf on the shelf during Christmas. Like, it has been less than 48 hours since you met this man and he's coming to your home to move an elf on the shelf. Absolutely not. This was too quick of insta love for me. The Friend Zone. I do enjoy Abby Jimenez and her style of writing, but this series made me want to take a nap. I have tried 2 other books in the series. I cannot get through them. It feels like a chore. So this one I just DNF'd because I was so freaking bored. Pucking Wild. This book is supposed to be a reverse age gap, and I don't like the term reverse age gap because it's just an age gap. It just happens to be that instead of the man being older, the woman is older. And the thing that aggravated me about this book is that the female lead was much older than the male lead, but he was still like in his mid-20s. Like, she was late 20s, I think, early 30s, and he was mid-20s, and she kept calling him a puppy. Like, any single time that she could degrade this man and make him feel like he was 16 years old instead of a grown man, she would take advantage of it and she would do it. She also had this weird obsession with calling him a puppy, and at one point in my head I was like, if you want to call him a puppy so bad, go buy a fucking puppy. Bonded by Thorns. This book, I didn't even make it 3 chapters in because I just kept picturing the female lead having a very whiny voice in the back of my head, and there is not enough money you could pay me to forget that and overlook that. Hell no. Primal. I was shocked by the verbiage within this book because I was having a little good old time reading it until I got to the 60% mark. Like, I was almost done. I was past the 50% mark and I said, absolutely not. I'm seeing myself out of this one. They used the verbiage. I grabbed the meat of her thighs. I grabbed the meat of her ass. Why? Why are you grabbing the meat? It makes me think you're cooking like a meal. I mean, I get you're about to eat her like a meal, but like, bruh. And last but not least, Sick Fucks. This is a very messed up Alice in Wonderland retelling. It's very traumatic, and I know this was removed from Amazon because of how dark it is. There is SA that happens to children, and I did not know that going into it, so I was very disturbed within the first 3 chapters, but I kept pushing because I was like, okay, let me wait until they get the revenge. And at one point it just got really repetitive and I didn't know where they could take the story because they just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it was like, I don't know. I really don't know what I could tell you about this book. I was bored. I keep saying that about every single book that I just said, but most of the time, if I'm bored and the book is just not entertaining me, I'm putting it down. Do you see my shelves? Do you see how many books I have? I don't have the time or the energy to waste on a book that feels like a chore. I should be having a little good old time reading it. If that's not happening, next. Favorite moments. Which book series stood out to you this year? That would be the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. I rarely start and finish books back to back, especially series. I get distracted very easily and I go from one book to another. They don't even have to be within the same series, and I will do that. But for this series, I had to consume them back to back. There's nothing you could have done to distract me from reading this series because I loved it so freaking much. So Part of Your World is book 1, then book 2 is Yours Truly, and then book 3 is Just for the Summer. My favorites are these two right here. I did really like Yours Truly, but I think I gave this one a 4 and I gave both of these a 5-star. These are perfect for the summertime. Like if you just want a feel good series that is gonna make you laugh and it's gonna make you love the characters, has really great banter, all the good things, all the good things, all the good things, all the good things. You should read this. Which book made you laugh the most? Butchered and Blackbird. I read this book in January, and every single time somebody asked me, what is your favorite book that has made you laugh the most? It's instantly this one. None of them have surpassed it. Like, have there been some books that have made me laugh? Yes, but not the way that this book did. Which book had the most stunning cover that you picked up? That would be Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. I mean, look at the colors on this cover. And I went ahead and picked a book that is not a special edition. You can go to Amazon and buy this book. You can go into a store and this is the book that you're gonna pick up. So that's why I decided on this one specifically. I bought this book and as soon as I bought it, I read it. Usually I let them marinate on my shelves for a little while, but this one I just couldn't do it. I needed to consume it really quickly and I did, and I loved it. Did you accomplish your reading goals for the year? I actually did. So my reading goal I set at 200 books and I ended up reaching that. I surpassed it a little bit, yay. I really wanted to beat my goal from last year because at the end of the day it should be you versus you, and I didn't. So 2023 Helen still got the upper hand on 2024 Helen, but you know there's 2025 Helen. We're gonna see what she can do, okay? Even if I could surpass it by reading 251 books instead of 250, then we'll see. Now with all that being said, my goal for 2025 is 200. What did this year's reading teach you about your preference? I learned that right book, wrong time is a thing. There was a lot of books that I soft DNF. So soft DNF is slightly different than a hard DNF, which is did not finish. So I will put a book down if I am not enjoying it, but I feel like I'm just not in the mood for the book. I would put it down, leave my bookmark in it. I own a crap ton of bookmarks, so it was not a problem. And then maybe a few weeks later or a month later, I would try reading that book again. I do the same thing on Kindle because Kindle saves your spot. And when I went back to read the books, most of the time, I enjoyed them a lot more than if I had forced myself to finish. I know I would have gave it a low rating because I was not mentally in the spot to enjoy that story and enjoy those characters. So that's one thing that I learned about myself is right book, wrong time is a thing, especially if you are a mood reader. How did your reading habits evolve this year? So my reading habits evolved with two big things. One big thing is that I started listening to a lot more audiobooks to help me read the books on my shelf. I do like physically reading books, but sometimes when I'm busy, like let's say I'm working out or making dinner or cleaning, I do need to have something in my ears that helps me stay stimulated to complete the task that I'm doing. So I started integrating audiobooks into my everyday life, and that has helped me get through my physical TBR a lot quicker, and they're not just sitting here marinating. Two, like I mentioned before, was just DNFing books. I got really good at doing that this year. If you're not liking a book, if you're not enjoying a book, no one is forcing you to read it. I know some people physically cannot DNF it. My best friend cannot DNF a book. Like, she will finish it. And I'm like, girl, you have too many books to be doing this. She has like 1,000 books in her house. I said no. Too many books for me. So those are the biggest thing. Audiobooks and DNF will change your life. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I should be back soon with more bookish content. I hope you have an amazing, amazing 2025.